Yeah, hi there. These comments are for Ina. This is Michael. I'm the founder, owner, and the materials writer for all of your lessons at the 7-step system to pass the TOEFL IBT. And let's take a look at your specific question here. So, you said the reading, listening, speaking academic, you said the response examples are very long. There's no way I can say so many words in 1 minute. In addition, reading passage is basically paraphrased, which is also impossible to do in 45 seconds. I'm starting to panic since I have to get 26 out of 30 this Saturday. Do you know why the bars are raised so high for the speaking compared to the other sections? Even though I've been here since 2000, I've already completed my education. I was very disappointed I could not pass the speaking section. All right, Ina, here's the thing. With my integrated speaking tasks, I'll admit in many cases they're a little bit more difficult than what you would see on the actual TOEFL exam. But you ever heard of what's called summary? You're talking about paraphrasing ideas, which I don't think is the right thing. We have 3 ways to handle source information. You can directly quote it, which means reproduce exactly word for word what it is that you read or what it is that you've listened to. You're not looking for that for the TOEFL. Another one is to paraphrase. To paraphrase means to take 20 or 30 words and rewrite the sentence using your own grammar and your own vocabulary, but also being another 25 or 30 words. Now, summary means you take a chunk of text and you reduce it to a smaller version. That's what you want to do. That's what you need to do, and you want to do that with my TOEFL integrated speaking task. Do the same thing with my TOEFL integrated writing task. Focus on the big picture. For example, one of my integrated speaking tasks talks about the dangers of the risks of nuclear energy, and then the lecture gives an example of one of those dangers. You cannot talk about all this stuff in the lecture. It's impossible. It's too much. The main point is there was a disaster in Chernobyl, Russia. It was a disaster due to a nuclear explosion that happened in a nuclear reactor plant, and a lot of people died, and there was a lot of contamination as a result. That's it. You can't say all of the specific details there. So to help relieve your stress a little bit, and breathe in and breathe out with me. Ooh, you feel better? Oh, just kind of relax a little bit. But what you're trying to do here is to summarize. So on Saturday, focus. I think when you're doing the integrated writing, for example, identify 3 specific points from the reading, 3 main points. Get those down in note form. Then on the right side of your paper, identify 3 different main points from the lecture, and particularly the ones that contradict each of the points mentioned in the reading. Get those down in note form. You might have 1 detail underneath each area. That's it. You don't try to get too detailed here. All right? Does that make sense? So that's part of my suggestions for some of your concerns right now, is to think about summarizing the reading passages and the lectures or the conversations you're listening to, instead of trying to paraphrase all that information, which you will not be able to do in 60 seconds. So I understand where you're coming from. Now your next question is, do you know why the bar is raised so high for the speaking compared to the other sections? It's a good question. That's a fair question. I mean, a lot of professional programs, they want you to get 26 out of 30 on the speaking, which is very tough to do. I understand where you're coming from there. I don't know why they do that. I'm going to give you a guess. Is a lot of, I think, universities, PhD programs and things, and then a lot of businesses and such, they probably had lower standards in the past regarding the TOEFL, and then they had the people who met those standards, and they got into those programs or those jobs, and their speaking skills still were not good. So then they were disappointed. So then they decided to raise those standards so that the quality of the people they would hire or the people that would admit into the program would be better. So that's really my best guess. It was a direct response into people who had lower speaking scores getting into certain programs that for whatever reason the people who were evaluating these new candidates or these new workers, they felt they weren't up to par. So then they raised the speaking section higher and higher until they got it to a standard that they thought was acceptable. And I know it's a difficult standard to reach, but the more organized you are, the better you're going to be. Alright, so anyway, hang in there. Thank you for your comments. I hope in this particular video I have helped you relax a little bit. Remember, the key to integrated writing and speaking tasks is making sure you have good notes, making sure you understand how to summarize the main points of the reading passage and also the listening passage. This is very, very important.